The small town of Millfield was a peaceful place, nestled in the rolling hills of Vermont. But that all changed when the old abandoned mansion on the edge of town was renovated and opened as a bed and breakfast. The locals whispered that the mansion was cursed, that it was built on the site of an ancient Native American burial ground, and that the spirits of the dead still lingered within its walls. Despite the rumors, the bed and breakfast was a success, and tourists flocked to Millfield to stay in the luxurious rooms and experience the town's haunted history. But as the weeks went by, strange things started to happen. Guests reported seeing ghostly apparitions in their rooms, and strange noises echoed through the halls at night. Katie, a young woman in her early 20s, was one of the guests at the bed and breakfast. She had always been fascinated by the supernatural, and was excited to experience the rumored hauntings firsthand. But as the night went on, Katie started to feel like she was being watched. She heard strange noises coming from the walls, and saw shadows moving in the corners of her eyes. She tried to brush it off as her imagination, but as the night went on, the strange occurrences became more and more frequent. She started to see the ghostly apparitions more clearly, and could feel a presence in the room with her. She tried to leave, but the doors and windows were locked from the outside, trapping her in the mansion. As the night went on, Katie became more and more terrified, convinced that she was not alone in the room. She tried to call for help, but the phone was dead, and no one answered when she pounded on the door. She was trapped, and she knew that she was not alone in the mansion. As the sun began to rise, Katie finally fell into a fitful sleep, exhausted from the night's events. But as she slept, she was visited by a dream, a nightmare unlike any she had ever experienced before. In the dream, she was being chased through the mansion by a ghostly figure, its face twisted into a grotesque smile. When Katie woke up, she was relieved to find that it was just a dream. But as she tried to leave the mansion, she was confronted with a chilling realization: the doors and windows were still locked, and she was still trapped inside. She was alone in the mansion, with no way to escape. As the day went on, Katie's fear turned to desperation. She searched the mansion for a way out, but every door and window was sealed shut. She was trapped, and she knew that she would never be able to escape. As the days went by, Katie's sanity began to unravel. She was alone in the mansion, with no one to talk to and no way to escape. She started to see the ghostly apparitions more frequently, and could feel the presence of the spirits all around her. She knew that she was going to die in the mansion, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. As the weeks went by, Katie's body started to waste away. She was emaciated and weak, her mind consumed by the spirits that haunted the mansion. She knew that her time was running out, and that she would never make it out alive. When the authorities finally found Katie, it was too late. She was lying in the mansion's attic, her body wasted away to nothing. As they investigated, they realized that the mansion was haunted, and that Katie had been trapped inside for weeks. They tried to exorcise the spirits, but it was no use. The ghosts were too powerful, and they continued to haunt the mansion, claiming more victims as the years went by. Despite the warnings, a group of paranormal investigators decided to spend the night in the abandoned mansion, hoping to capture evidence of the ghosts that haunted its halls. They set up cameras and recording equipment throughout the mansion, determined to prove the existence of the spirits once and for all. As the night went on, strange things started to happen. The temperature dropped suddenly, and the cameras captured strange movements and noises that could not be explained. The investigators became increasingly convinced that the mansion was indeed haunted, and that they were not alone in the building. One of the investigators, a medium, decided to try and communicate with the spirits directly. She held a séance in the mansion's old library, hoping to make contact with the other side. But as she began the ritual, the spirits became agitated, and the room was filled with a sudden surge of energy. The seance went horribly wrong, and the spirits became enraged, lashing out at the investigators. They were trapped in the mansion, with no way to escape the wrath of the ghosts. As the night went on, they were picked off one by one, until there was only one survivor left. As dawn broke, the survivor stumbled out of the mansion, barely alive. He was the only one to make it out alive, and he was left to tell the tale of what had happened in the abandoned mansion that night. His story became a warning to all who dared to enter the haunted building, and the mansion was left abandoned and haunted, a place of darkness and despair. But the spirits that haunted the mansion were not satisfied with being sealed inside its walls. They started to roam the town, seeking out new victims to claim. The town of Millfield was never the same after that, and it became known as a place of darkness and despair. People avoided the town at all costs, terrified of the ghosts that lurked in the shadows. A new group of curious teenagers decided to explore the abandoned mansion one night. They were determined to debunk the legends and prove that the ghosts were just a myth. But as they entered the mansion, they were immediately confronted by the spirits that haunted its halls. The ghosts were relentless, stalking the teenagers through the mansion as they tried to escape. But as they ran, they realized that the doors and windows were locked, just like they had been for Katie. They were trapped, and there was no way out. As the night went on, the teenagers became more and more desperate. They knew that they were not going to make it out alive, and their fear turned to panic. They tried to fight back, but the ghosts were too powerful, and they were picked off one by one.